Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Severin and today I will speak about the new moon in Cancer happening on the 9th of July 2021. And some people of you must have been noticing that I haven't been able to share about the full moon in Capricorn 2 weeks ago, and I'm blaming simply Saturn square Uranus, which is happening this year, and this affects me personally tremendously. So Saturn squaring Uranus is happening over the entire year of 2021. I've been speaking a lot about it, and we had the second square going on the 14th of June, so last month. And it's this power struggle that we are going through. It's like the old version, like the traditions, the way that we have been functioning, also a way that we are used to and gave us stability and security, is being challenged by an awakening to our individuality, a new way. And with Uranus awakening that, there's always be coming up old pattern, unconscious memory, trauma, undigested emotions, and we have to relive them in order to make peace with them, to allow them. It's a shadow work, like distorted or unprocessed feelings that have been pushed away for good reason because they were scary or we had to survive when we were younger. But now, in order to regain access to this power source, we have to digest them. And that's uncomfortable. But that's exactly where the energy lies that we can harness in order to step into a more truthful, a more authentic version of ourselves. And that's exactly how it felt for me. Like I has been so scared of all these emotions and feelings and sensations that have been coming up that I was simply falling apart, and I couldn't deal like with actually speaking to anybody else. I really had to actually become true to my own process, and I started to really take better care of myself. I was hiding in my own dark retreat. I dealt with a lot of pain, of guilt, of shame, of fears, of worries, and I really have been facing a lot of what has been alive in me and what we could even call depression. But it's simply the lack or the fear of accepting of a part of me that I haven't been expressing yet. And so stepping into it is the entire process of 2021 for many of us. And it can be very scary, but it can also be very liberating and empowering. And so I have been taking time for myself, and I have been also going more into cryptocurrency, which is also something that I really believe is leading the future. It's going to be the new asset for that Uranus, also in Taurus, where we actually stepping away from the old system, from our government that are in power and explaining or telling us what the rules are, towards a sovereign society or an individual. And that also means that we have to take the power back, but also responsibility. And I think blockchain or decentralized finances is the way. And if you are interested in that, I'm happy to share more with you. I'm not an expert, but I have been studying it now for more and more. It's like a new language, like astrology, since about 6 months. I can leave you a link below where I give you a referral link. If you're also interested in cryptocurrency, there's an app called crypto.com which you can sign up to my link, so we both get a bonus. And also I have a YouTube channel, or like a YouTube link, where I selected a lot of videos which give you the basic understanding to learn what cryptocurrency is and how you start to actually transfer your fiat or your normal currency into cryptocurrency. And so I believe that we are heading into an age where we are becoming individuals that have to be resourceful with our goods, and therefore we have to become independent, and simply money will be part of that journey. Another part that I would like to share more, and I have been becoming very interested in, is actually psychedelics. I have been working and experimenting with that since over 10 years, like over periods of time. But many of you know that I'm leading a retreat center where we offer silent retreats and we teach meditation. And so that's also one of the big questions, like how does meditation and psychedelics go together? And we have more and more people that actually coming to us that have been experimenting a lot with psychedelics, and they have been experiencing very deep states of very altered state of consciousness, but still they have to realize that you can go very high with psychedelics and you can gain very deep insights, but that you cannot stay there. And so if you want to stay there, you have to, in my opinion, to start to learn to meditate. And they support each other, but you cannot just do psychedelics. So psychedelics can be really helpful, especially if we are suffering from depression or loneliness or lack of meaning. They can really give us some first aid, but it's really important to have also the understanding of meditation and how to deal with our thoughts and emotions, and that's what we are offering. So I'm also sharing that because we have more and more people coming to our retreat center, the Hermitage in Guatemala. If you're looking for a place where you can safely fall apart with like-minded people and you can really feel that you can actually take the time to contemplate and reinvent yourself, because all of us, we are becoming new versions in this year, and this is a scary part, to fall apart and perhaps look at some parts within us that we have never been really facing, but now we have no escape, and that can feel very scary. And it's good to have support, to have a place where we feel safe and where we can actually then face what's alive within us. So you are more than welcome if you would like to come to the Hermitage and go through that process. And I'm also happy to support you in that process, if that is with astrology or just like on a level of other ways to reflect and support your journey. All right, I've been talking a lot about that. So let's go into the new moon in Cancer. So the new moon in Cancer, let me just change the chart here on my screen. Like, what's important, what we have to understand, that we had a very powerful time now in the last month. Like, we had the Uranus and Saturn square, which is really bringing up a lot for us. It's really challenging us to deal what is there in us that holds us back, that is maybe that we are too opinionated, too fixed, that we are too much holding on to security, and that we want to fix or deal with our minds and have a plan or how we wanted to move on, where actually Uranus is taking all apart and telling us, look, no, everything is being created out of this very moment, and in order that you're becoming alive again and truly human, you have to deal with the destruction of your concepts and becoming alive again and aware that only this very moment counts. And that can be a destruction, but it can also be a liberation of thoughts or patterns or belief systems that actually don't serve you but actually limit you. So this is what's happening. And then, like last month also, we had this beautiful summer solstice on the 20th of June, and that's also then, it was a very powerful time where we had all these new realizations from Mercury came back out of retrograde, and we had these new insights of how we can move forward. And so now with this Cancer new moon, I'm calling this actually an emotional breakthrough. It's a very intense new moon again, like everything this year. It feels very intense on a emotional level, especially with this Cancer. But it's also a really beautiful opportunity, because now that we have perhaps been more falling apart the last month, again, we can recognize now with this Cancer new moon, where we have the Sun and the Moon in Cancer, which is really about nurturing our own needs. What do we need? What do we need to stand up for? How can we take better self-care? And how can we trust our inner voice, but not just our inner voices and intuition, but also our hearts. And that's also a point, like Mars and Venus are in Leo, And so there's a lot of emphasis like on being courageous and stepping up or naming what we need, of actually expressing out loud what we deserve or what we maybe have been holding back before, like in a sense of like we don't know where we're heading, but this is not possible. And that feels perhaps scary because we don't know where we're heading exactly, we don't know the next step. But then a baby step is actually defining our boundaries, like this is my worth. And in order to honor my boundaries, this is like, with my vulnerability, this is what I need right now in order to move on, or that I feel seen or heard, that I can feel understood. And from that place, I can be opening up for a next step. So it can be a very powerful time, like a vulnerable time actually, where we can also feel really stressed, or we can feel caged. We can feel like hold back. And now it can be like if you don't have the time, or if you're too much into work and functioning, where you suddenly have this irrational or animalistic, aggressive, like impulsive outrage for stepping, free, or where you can just not deal with something, and where you need to feel that you actually are allowed to step into whatever you deserve. So again, the emphasis is really on having time for self-reflection, of where you can step back, having a bigger picture, where you can meditate, where you can contemplate, where you can share with people that are not your direct lover or parent or child, where you're being triggered, but where you actually can be understood, and where you maybe then also by equal parts can listen, and then where we can maybe find a compromise. But the tendencies for this new moon are very much that this can maybe be a little bit strong or like forceful, especially also we're having Pluto coming over the sun. So that means Pluto opposes the sun on the now is the 9th of July, so in a week. So actually almost in 10 days, on the 17th of July, Pluto is directly opposing the sun, and that can be a power struggle. And that means normally, and again it's this emphasis, like Pluto is standing for transformation, for letting go of the old way of how we see ourselves, especially when it's connected with the sun, and how we have to transform. And with that comes like a death, like letting go of an old way in order to re-step in who we are truly feeling, who we are meant to be. And that can be a very powerful, in general, like this new moon is a very power emphasis of like stepping in what feels true and authentic for us. So, but when we want to change other people, like Pluto over the sun, when we want to change other people to get what we want, then we're ending up in a power struggle. So it's very important that we're emphasizing on ourselves. So it's not changing the other person, but coming back, and that's what this invitation with this new moon is. Like, what do I need? What are my boundaries? And what is the emphasis of my own next step? And how can I take better care of that and communicate that? And also like letting go of old beliefs or patterns and stepping into a new way that feels true for me, even if that's a very little step. And so it can also feel like a little tension, or like a forceful growth. And that's also what this Mars and Venus in Leo are bringing up. Like, they can be like almost feeling like you're not holding me back any longer. I'm not willing anymore to delay my personal growth. Like, I really need to step into that. And that's really what this new moon is about, of like honoring our needs. And that also is like, how do we handle our emotions? So to recognize them, that they have meaning and they have something to say, and we cannot just shut them down. And the better we can communicate, and the more we are aware of what's alive in us, the smoother this transition will be. But this year is really about falling apart, and also acknowledging like our fears or our worries, and and our old patterns, and why we have not been dealing with them for good reason, and how by going into them we even better become aware of what we then actually need, if that fear, of that worry, or that restrictions are not any longer holding us back. So it's a huge process going on right now within us, and everything screams inside of you for taking care of what's happening. You are giving rebirth to yourself, and that includes the dying of the all, which is Saturn. And from that dying, there will be a capacity or a possibility, or the beauty comes from that dying, for having new energy to then be able to harness that new aliveness that comes from that allowing of the all part to die, to then step into something that we don't even know yet. And that's really scary, because we would already like to die, let something die, if we securely know that that will give us something positive in the long term. But we first have to let it die before, out of that kind of letting go process, something new and beautiful can emerge. And that is then really important, to not force it, to have a surrounding where people are really loving and gentle and caring, and where we have not an aggression or a fear around us by other people. And that's why it's so good to have conscious communities, retreat centers, friends, and people that love us, in order that we can communicate, because they give us then the capacity or the permission to bring that gentleness and softness and acceptance and self-love, to really honor, even though we have been something before, or like a person, like in a certain way or certain structure, and that is simply changing and doesn't count any longer. And that's okay. That's part of the process, and you are allowed to re-emerge completely different, because you are not your story, you're not your past, and you don't know your future, and you are truly beautiful for simply being. And out of that, exactly that is emerging, which is needed. And so it's so simple, it's really complicated, but I really hope and wish you all the best on this journey of giving birth for a new version of yourself in the most gentle and tender and caring and loving way that you're capable of at this very moment. And even that is enough for now. So much love, and I wish you all the best. And for those of you who made it that far, and if you are in my WhatsApp Telegram group, I am opening up to personal readings again. And you're more than welcome if you would like to work with me personally. And yes, I would love to see you at the Hermitage if you at any point feel the longing to connect more with yourself, and contemplating on your life and learning more about meditation. And that's also a place where more and more people are reaching out to have personal one-on-one astrology sessions, where I can share with you, also from a place of where I can allow so many more elements to come in and really be part of your journey. And that's what I love most. So with that, I'm ending here and wishing you all the best, and I'm gonna see you again in 2 weeks if I'm able to share my voice. All right, much love and goodbye.